Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the newest and one of the most interesting podcasts. I will humbly brag myself. The Stone Disclosure. I am your host, Trey, and I am here with a very special guest. I will let her introduce herself. She goes by the Advocating Aunty. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Perfect. So, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do, how long you've been doing it, and exactly why you're here because your stuff is very interesting.
Okay, well, thank you so much. So my name's Alethia Bundy. I am the Advocating Aunty. So I basically run a business that helps fathers who've experienced separation from their families due to divorce or just general separation. I help them deal with basically the administrative side of what it means to be paying child support. So anyone who's struggling with government administration, government enforcement, confusion over what your options are in court. And with the administration, I'm your girl.
Wow, that's awesome. See what I mean? Told you guys, I got a great host. And we're just kind of bouncing off of the couple episodes ago where we were talking about fatherhood, and this is something we touched on. So it's actually amazing to have you here. Now, how long have you been in this field?
All right. So, well, I finished law school in 2016. So I've kind of dabbled in law for a while. And then 2018, I started working for the Alberta government in their family responsibility office. So that's where I got kind of like my really behind the scenes kind of look into what happens to families once they leave court and what happens specifically with fathers. So I worked in the interjurisdictional unit, which deals with people who have families outside of the province. So most of my clientele were men who basically had a lot of like child support debt and were struggling or not struggling, hiding. and yeah, and I basically was the person who basically ruined their life. Sometimes I had to pay my dues, but I've been doing that for the last few years. I left the government last year, and basically I realized I couldn't shake it, right? Like, I'm a sister to two brothers, and I saw what it was like with custody battles with for their children, and I saw what the system does with them. So I feel like this has been a lifelong kind of journey, but professionally, I would say the last few years.
That's actually amazing. So I'm going to assume it's like seeing your brothers and like other men kind of go through that is kind of what pushed you to get into this.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's so easy. Like, as a woman, obviously, I I support other women as well, and we're always kind of running to each other's defense and or being in our corner. And that's an easy default for me. But when I really paid attention to what my brothers had to go through, and as I got older, what my friends had to go through, and then getting into the field as well, I realized that, like, you can support women. You obviously want to put children ahead of everyone, but there's enough empathy and compassion for fathers as well.
That's actually really interesting as a female hearing that perspective, because I feel like, first and foremost, I don't feel like us men kind of support each other enough. And hearing a lot of like the stories that I've heard with friends of mine, family members of mine going through this process, I do the process myself, but I was a little bit luckier than other people because I kind of kept it out of that realm as much as possible. But that's not the reality for everyone, right? So
Yes.
explain what this process looks like from beginning to end, because I don't think a lot of people have a full scope of what it's like. And I can't really fully speak to it myself because I didn't fully go through it. So what is like a regular uh, case look like from the beginning to the end?
Okay, well, it all depends on what you consider the beginning, right? So my professional experience is I see what happens after you think battle's over, right? So this is after court. But really, it can start many different places. So whether you're dealing with a marriage or the breakdown of a marriage or just the breakdown of a cohabitation situation, or not even cohabitation, but just having a child with somebody else that you are no longer with, it can get quite sticky. So it depends on where you begin, obviously. So I think the real journey that people don't talk about is what happens when you're finished with court. So say you've gone through a divorce or just a separation and you have obviously one or more children involved. When you go to court, you are issued a court order, right? And it basically breaks down the agreement that you have with your ex on how you're going to go forward with. I don't deal with so one thing I will say, I don't deal with property division. Asset division is not my thing. I wish it was, but it's not. But when it comes to dealing with children specifically, so that's where your amount for what you're going to be paying monthly. Sometimes people pay monthly, some people pay weekly or bi-weekly, but whatever, that's just details. But you basically get the amount that you are given, that you were meant to be paying to your partner. Now, it's not just fathers who pay, obviously. It's whoever doesn't have the child full time or the majority of the time. So the non-custodial parent is who I obviously deal with. So anyways, so once you get that court order, it tells you how much you pay, when you pay it. It also can lay out specifics about your access to your child as well. So that's something that's very specific. So yeah, those are basically how it kind of starts. So once you're given that order, you have sometimes a decision to make between the two of you, or one of you has the decision to make on whether you register that court order with your government agency. So there's benefits on both sides on whether or not you would do that. But so you don't often have a choice. So if your other partner wants to register and you don't, you're fresh out of luck. You got to register. So from there, the government agency will take your file and basically start racking up the money, right? So we keep tabs on what you need to be paying each month. If there's anything extra on top of that, we keep account of that. So we're just the middleman, the money maker, not maker, sorry, exchange between the two parties, right? We make no money. So yeah, so from there, everything is fine. Obviously, if you're able to pay what the court says you have to pay, then you usually don't have a problem. Now, it starts to get a little sticky when things don't go the way you want it to go. Now, people can walk out of court with thousands of dollars of debt that now get registered with the government. Do you want to say something?
No. I've seen that happen. So it's like
Yeah. I've seen costs awarded to the other parent, thousands of dollars for legal fees. If you had a contentious divorce or separation, you could be expected to pay the decided amount for the duration of that, the time it took you to come to that decision. So if you had a long 2-year divorce, they will take those 24 months multiplied by the number they said, and now that's what you have as debt. And now it's registered with the government. So from there, someone like myself, someone like myself calls you in the middle of your workday and ruins that day by saying, hello, you owe $20,000. How would you like to pay? Well, that's a very simplistic way of doing it, but basically that's what it is. And it's just a tug of war of whether you shell out the money that we expect you to, or the full force of the government basically comes after you. So that's full enforcement. So anyone who's in this situation will understand it's licenses, passports, bank accounts, like your credit score, like anything you need to survive as an adult. Yeah, we take it. So
you can't like live that down. Like that legitimately stays until it's paid off.
Yeah, basically, unless there are the stars align in your behalf, on your behalf, or you're quite strategic and relentless, you can find wiggle room. But I think the hardest thing when it comes to paying child support, which obviously comes with the logic of raising a child, is that it never stops. You can claim bankruptcy. That debt is never forgiven. You can be homeless. You could be disabled. it's never going away. Even if you die, like your estate will be divided and part of that will be paid off to your debt. So it's a really difficult situation for people to be in when they don't have not necessarily the financial resources to pay, but they just don't have other resources or support to be able to manage that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's, yeah, it's kind of where it branches off into a million different directions.
I will say that I'm happy I didn't meet you that way because we wouldn't be
We
friends.
actually, maybe not. Depends on how cooperative you were. You would be very lucky to have me as an officer. Yeah, I was, like, I understood. I understood that no matter what the reason is behind it, nobody wants to get a phone call and hear they're thousands of dollars in debt and 30 days out from losing their license. Like nobody wants that. And
Mhm.
that's a nice call. So,
Jeez. So
yeah.
we'll talk about the challenges. 'Cause I'm sure there's a ton of challenges from like the end of the payee who has to go through this, but like you being the person in that field, having to kind of like navigate the situation and be kind of like the bearer of bad news for a lot of the calls that you make. Like, what challenges did you face as the person having to do that?
Okay, well, I'll go off of one of my first critiques, or I don't know, I think it was just like a neighbor making fun of me, but trying to be less like sympathetic to someone's situation. I think that was the hardest. I think um I don't know. I don't know about anybody else, but if no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to put myself in that position. I'm not a like 45-year-old father with like 3 kids and a divorce. I'm definitely not that, but I'm still a human, and so is that person. So I think like I said, like you said, actually being the bearer of bad news, actually not pick up the phone's fine, but talking to someone to say, hey, like, you have quite a bit of money that you need to pay off. How can you pay that? Or
Hmm.
how fast can you pay that? And I think listening to people's stories was, I think, the hardest. So
Hmm.
that a lot of like, I was out in Alberta, oil country. So a lot of these guys are working some pretty dangerous jobs. Like they'll fall from something or something will fall on them and they're on disability for a certain period of time. Some of them can't go back to work. And when you realize that um, someone's ability to earn is compromised, you just have that compassion for them, but you know that this is unrelenting. At the end of the day, whether you have a job or not, your kid needs to eat, um, and it's balancing that kind of
Hmm.
dynamic. I think was the hardest. And
So,
listening to men cry
mhm.
breaks my heart. Like it's hard.
I can imagine. I can imagine. In my field outside of all of this, like I'm responsible for making big decisions that affect people's life. So I can sympathize with you on that, especially like when you hear the situations that they go through and you're still kind of like, yeah, I know, but
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah,
get away with this, let's try to figure it out as best as we can.
yes.
So I feel you on that. So my question is, if you're say in that situation as that parent, and let's say your child support is $1,000 a month, and you wind up getting hurt on the job to where you can't earn enough to pay, is there any options for you?
Okay, well, from what I've seen so far, it depends on where you live.
Mm.
So each province will have um, basically their own way of dealing with that. So you could go back to court. There are legal kind of instruments you can use to allow you to be a human and give you a chance to like recover um, without penalty. What that does to the family on the other side is a whole nother ball game. But in terms of just the administration and that paid parent, it can give you some leeway in terms of giving you a break on how much you pay, on how much, it's really how much you pay and what penalties you get for not paying what the court says you should pay. So
Mm.
they can give you a breather. for a little while, but it's a very case by case basis, and it really depends on which province you're dealing with. And if this is international, which state, country, parish kind of thing.
Wow, that's actually interesting. You live in this province, well, you're SOL. This one, you're
yes.
Makes debate where you live now.
Yeah, so for my brothers in Ontario, life. So far, like a whole truck needs to fall on you for you to get any leeway. Like, I haven't seen many, but the mechanism is there. I just don't know who makes it through, you know?
All right. So in your opinion, you don't have to answer this because I don't know if this will have any like
repercussions,
implications or anything for you, but in your opinion, you can. Looking at how the system works for this, do you think there is a bias, or is there any ways that the system should kind of be revamped to make it a little bit more fair, or is it just completely fair?
Nothing is completely fair. Nothing is completely fair. I think it depends on what part of the system you're looking at. So there's definitely a natural bias, not saying natural to say that it's right, but natural bias that that kids go with their mother. Okay, that's the first bias, and I think that it's one of the root issues to how we deal with things and how we deal with child support, how much to pay, when to pay it, who gets it, who decides what to do with it. I think that it is biased, and it's obviously not in the favor of most men. But the tables turn. If you are the person, whoever has the kids. So obviously we know what the majority decision is for the children to stay with the parents. Or sorry, for the mother. For the kids to stay with the mother, sorry. So the bias there is what gets the ball rolling. So yeah, I have no problem saying that. Like I would say that on a regular day in the office and be like, this is some bullshit. Oh no, what's the rating on this?
Oh, don't worry about it.
Can I say? Okay.
I swear on this all the time, so it's all good.
Yeah, so in short, yes, there is a bias. In some cases, I think there is a level of equality. I would say equality, but fairness. Like once you have a child, like I don't have a child, so I can say this without any blowback on myself. But without a like when you have a kid, like the responsibility or whatever your issues are really don't come at the top of the list, right? Like it's all about the kid and the justification of how they make these decisions is to say that the child is and their well-being is at the very top, and everyone needs to focus on that. So in that way, it is fair. In its inflexibility, not fair at all to whoever lands in the position of being a payee or payer, depending on where you are, you're called. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Actually makes sense. All right. So is there anything as a potential payee, and like the way these work out, like you said, it's normally the mother who will have the child. I've seen situations where it had to be very dire situation for it to go the other way, where the father actually had custody of the kids. Now, I know it is getting a little bit better, but we do have a long way to go still. So that's the only reason I say like I'm putting it in this sense. So what should the fathers do first? Like what should they be looking for from the moment where that separation actually happens? Because it winds up usually being them who kind of become the payee. So in the scenario of like you're with a person, you guys have officially broken up, like, what are the first things that we should be looking out for and preparing for?
Okay. Well, like I said before, it depends on where you start. And I think just to kind of add a little bit of background, I think that's the hardest part when we're dealing with family law issues is how vast your variations can be, right? So even a lawyer won't say, yeah, you know, I can 100% get you this. No, like there's so many variables that you have to take into consideration. But speaking like more high level, you have to figure out your money situation. Like that's the first thing, because that is what catches most men. I don't know. Okay, I do know, but the world just assumes men just have money, right? You know, they just assume that money is just something that you just have. so,
Yep.
so yeah. Or pardon?
You just sneeze and it comes out. That's what you just assume. Like, it's not like that at all.
You know what I mean? So it's all about organizing your finances. So it all depends on what kind of situation you're on the outside of. Like if you're outside of a 15-20 year marriage, okay, well now you need to now pay attention to what kind of um financial habits do you have that you shared with this other person. If you have shared bank accounts, if you have uh something as simple as changing your mailing address, for the love of God, change it to someone you trust, whether it's your mother, sister, brother, someone that is not your ex or an ally of that person. Okay. So I think that would be the first one. So separating your money, changing your addresses. And it looks or seems like a very insignificant clerical thing to do, but I can assure you that that one account that you forgot to um, update your address on, oh yeah, they'll send you a letter. They'll send you a letter with something to do with money that you may or may not have, and that person's gonna open it. Nobody cares if if it's illegal to open someone else's mail. Good luck fighting that, because whatever is found. So you don't want to die on that hill. So number one, update your information. But more specifically to your finances, yeah, you have to get rid of those joint accounts. Now, in some cases, you won't be able to do so because it is a joint account. You need agreeing parties. I would say change where your paychecks go, if that's how if you get direct deposits from your employer or however, change all of that to your own account. This is where it gets sticky, because I don't want to tell people how to evade their responsibilities, which is a very fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you want, no one's going to pay me for me to show them how to evade child support. That's never going to happen. But there are certain steps that you need to take to protect yourself if you have a very contentious separation, right? Like, definitely you have to move your money. You have to move your money, whether it's into someone else's bank account is up to you. Okay. but that's like very shaky advice. Like, you don't live in that space. But no, you have to get very clear about what money is coming in. And another point is to keep better records of what you contribute to your child or children's life. That needs to be like almost anal retentive. Like, if you are not a book or record keeping kind of person, you either need to learn real quick or find someone who can help you out. It's not a lot, I don't think, depending on what your situation is and how organized you were beforehand. But you need to get that in order. Like, you have to be documenting what do you do every single day, like with your kid, what are you spending, what are your previous expenses. Like, you really have to get granular on those things. And last point, which is outside of the concept of money, but I think getting the details of your kid's life, like, I'm actually shocked at how little fathers know about some of the kids' things, like what school they go to, who are their teachers' names, their doctors, does your kid have any illnesses or some sort of condition that you should be worried about? You need to know these things. And if you don't, don't beat yourself up, but definitely get on that, because I've heard of where men are really judged heavily on the fact that they don't know these things, which is not fair, because we all have our roles in relationships, and yeah, sure, like I would want my partner to know that shit in case I'm not around, but you may not have had to fill that role. So now you need to start wearing more than one hat, as like whatever the hat you were wearing before. So those are like I think I said 4 things. Yeah, those are the 4 main things that you need to start doing right away.
So just to recap, step 1 is
change your address.
Your money.
So that was number 2, but yeah, move your money. Secure your money, whatever is actually yours. Don't run off with people's balances. Yeah. That's a crime, okay? Don't do that. Well, never mind. But yeah, secure your money. Change your address on everything possible, especially when you're not going back to that relationship. Now, when it comes to, like I said, this is not to talk to or speak towards asset division. So if you're talking about properties, maybe leave one behind, but that's neither here nor there. So that's number 2. Number 3, what was my number? What was my number 3? I don't remember. You're gonna have to work with me on that one. But really, move your money, change your address. Oh, keep records of expenses for your child. And yeah, I'm not gonna remember the 4th one.
I have the 4th one in my head, but I was like, no, I forgot it because I was trying to figure out the 3rd one.
God.
Oh, it's funny how that works out.
Your kid. That was number 4.
Yeah, know your kid.
Know your kid.
So from that aspect of, and I really want to push like awareness, especially for like anyone in this situation or anyone who feels like they're going in that situation. What are some things that like people should be aware of when it comes to these things? Now, I know every situation is different, but even if we're looking at like how the government like splits child support, or how they kind of like swing in this direction versus the, it's been a long day, swing in one direction versus the other, or the process of going to court, like what are things that people should be aware of that they might not necessarily know, or they might just assume is a certain way and it's not? I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly.
I think I know where you're getting at, because a lot of people have assumptions on what they're entitled to and what they can fight for, and they often get it wrong, especially men. Let's see, what's my most impactful thing I can say on that is, do not let how or the reasons why your relationship dissolved. Don't let whatever happened to make that relationship dissolve dictate how you present yourself in court, or present yourself or how you handle yourself with the government agency as well. So why I say that is that a lot of guys I've seen like kind of put their hands up and they're like, whatever you want to do, I'm for it, because I love my kids and I want to be a good father. So whatever you want to do, I can do it. Do not do that. It's the worst thing I have ever seen. So an example is like, while I was working, I seen an order come out of the court where this person was paying not a crazy amount as a single dollar amount. But when I saw how much they were making, or not making is what I should say, I really questioned them, like, why is this so high? So then I read, like, I'm nosy, I'll just read through the transcripts and see what went on in court. And this person voluntarily increased their child support amount because, they wanted to. Sorry, did you hear that?
Someone's house is haunted.
Yeah.
Not mine.
I'm sorry. Of course, they're doing something outside. Sorry about that. But like I was saying, so he voluntarily increased his amount in court. Do not do that. That is the worst possible thing you could ever do, because it locks you into that amount regardless of how much you make, regardless of what happens to you. And if you need to change it, you're going to have to go back to court. Mind you, you can go back to court. It's not as hard as it might seem. You do not need a lawyer, but for every situation. But if you're just like, not really a 9 to 5, but if you work as an employee, you're not a business owner or anything like that, or a subcontractor, or sole proprietor, stuff like that, and you have a very straightforward income, don't do it. Just, yeah, you can go back to court and easily change it. But yeah, so that would be one of like my greatest advices, is to not feel like you don't have the right to defend yourself, because just because the court doesn't acknowledge a certain amount of support that you give your kid doesn't mean you're not going to give it, right? And you paying a high amount is not going to make you any better in this kid's life. Okay, not going to help you. So that's one thing. So I know, I'll give you another example of what I mean by that. And I will never forget this man, but he did everything in his power to like smooth things over with his ex-wife. I'm not sure what his guilt or where his guilt was coming from, but he bought her a car, he paid her student loan, he paid off the mortgage, and then was surprised that she took him to court for everything that he used to be making. Like, I was like, why would you do that? Why? Oh, I just wanted to be a good dad. Well, how's that going? Because you're thousands of dollars in debt and now you don't have anywhere to live. So,
Dad, jeez.
yeah. So I've seen them real, and it's hard. Like, the world is hard on men. I know that. Like, everyone needs, I think some part of them knows that the world is hard on men, even though, modern feminism is saying that men rule the world. Maybe like 40 of them, but the rest of us are all in the shit together. So yeah, don't feel like you cannot defend yourself, because you have every right. And one thing is, if you have the ability to be close to your child in terms of like proximity, like you're not on the other side of the country, another province, whatever, stay as close as you can to this kid and demand like shared custody. If you can, like, is this something you can actually do? You want to have as much contact time as possible, because how involved you are in the child's life can have a very high impact on how much you pay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that.
So how many different types of custody is there? Like, is there for these situations? Shared is I believe like 50-50, right? Or give or
There's percentages. It goes by percentage. So shared split, there's a joint custody that can be 50-50. There is shared custody that can be like a 40-60 split or anywhere in between. Sole custody, those are the only ones. Joint, split, and sole. Yeah, I think. Not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. So yeah,
the
those
would be like that parent has the child pretty much all the time.
yes, and it's not just about time. It's about who gets to make the decisions. That's also where custody comes into play. Who makes the big life decisions, the day-to-day. It's those kind of things that get decided. Medical decisions, the person who has custody will be able to make them. Yeah.
So that's something I don't think a lot of people knew. A lot of people that I talked to thought like, oh, well, like they didn't really tell me about this. And I'm like, well,
Really?
Sole custody that have to. And then it went to court to fight for it, but they were told.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, like, I've seen a lot of people or men concede their custody to the mother because they feel like that's the right thing to do. And then it's like, it's never, unless it's like an abusive situation, it's never the right thing to have 1 out of 2 parents ever. And I think that it's important for fathers to have decision-making rights, you know, especially if you're going to be paying, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, is that you can have no custody, like nothing, no rights. You don't even get to know where your kids go to school, nothing. But you have to pay. It's like, yeah, you got to pay, but now you have no rights. You have no right to say where that money goes. You have no right. Like a lot of, like, now that we're getting through the pandemic, a lot of contention about who gets vaccinated, who doesn't, who gets to go where. Huge issue. So everybody who was like, oh, I don't need custody, I get to see my kids anyways. Yeah, how did that go? Yeah.
Hold on, let's backtrack this here, because you could be paying for child support and still not have access to your child.
100%.
How does that happen?
Easily. Very easily. Like if you give up custody, or not give up, I shouldn't necessarily say give, but say you don't have custody, however that came about, you still have to pay, but you get zero decisions. Like, you know nothing. Like, I've had men paying for children to go to university. They're not allowed to know, like, what school, what program, when, nothing. They just get a bill.
Wow. Would that be like a decision where, I guess, the court is worried that the payee or the father would be like abusive to the child, or is that just like you giving that up? Like,
I think okay, when I say that okay, I should clarify that. They don't know where they go because the government can't tell them. So say they're estranged, like they don't really talk, they don't have a good relationship with the mother. Unless the kids tell them where they're going, there's no way for them to know.
Oh, okay.
No way. So if you're in BC and your kids are in Ontario and you're like, okay, yeah, hey, giving you a 30-day notice, your kid just enrolled in post-secondary education. In 30 days, we will be tacking on $15,000 onto your account just to let you know you have another 30 days to pay that off before interest and penalties are ensued. So how would you like to pay? And they're like, where are they going to school? I can't tell you that, sir. That is a privacy issue. I cannot share that information. So,
wow.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? Like, it can be someone just down the street. Say the kids, just in regular school, you know where they go, but it comes down to, you don't get to decide where that money goes. You don't. It's like, I know there's a huge narrative like, oh, my baby mom's is taking my money, my child support money to go get her nails done. Maybe, maybe not, but you don't get a say, legally at least. You don't get a say on that money. So when you have joint custody, you at least get perceived access, because then you have to follow through. And there are many ways for those rights to not be actualized, because then you got to deal with the bias of school boards, the bias of your ex-partner, the bias of basically anyone who comes between you and your child. And fighting them is very expensive.
That's crazy. That is wild.
It is. It's like a living hell, I think. It looks like it, at least.
I've only heard one story like that, and I wasn't sure if I believed it. Like, in my head, I was like, yeah, you probably did something wrong. Like, you know what I mean? But like, wow, crazy.
Yeah, it happens. Like, well, mind you, I don't know, like maybe they did do something wrong, but what could you possibly have done that warrants that? And it's general, it's a general thing. Like, if I pay like $500 a month and I don't get to decide where that money goes, like, that's frustrating. Especially if the child's not being taken care of, like, to your standard. Then things get very frustrating, because that doesn't, like, just because the kid's not being taken care of, like, whether the other parent is feeding them, bathing them, sending them to school is not up for you to decide when it comes to paying. You still have to pay, and then you have to then take the initiative to go forward and bring that person to court, or there's a few steps before that, but you have to seek legal counsel. That costs money, but you're still paying.
Wow.
Yeah.
See something now because like I didn't even know that was a thing. So how long are you obligated to pay child support till? Because I know a lot of people think it's like, oh, once the kid like graduates high school, but like I've heard it's different.
Yeah, it's different. It will be different for each case. But the general rule is okay if the child turns 18, but then you got to ask yourself, what province does that child live in? Because if they live in BC or if they live in Ontario, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm thinking. I think no, I think another one of those eastern provinces. I don't deal with them very often, but definitely Ontario and BC. Their age of majority, so the age you become an adult, is 19.
Mhm.
So you're still paying up until 19. Now, if your kid decides to go straight from secondary school to post-secondary, whether it is university, college, trade school, vocational, whatever, if they're in school full time, you will continue to pay.
Wow. And would you be paying like the tuition or would you be paying like everything that you were paying before?
Both, yeah. So your tuition, so you have, it's called Section 3, a child support payment is a Section 3 expense. And then you have your Section 7s. So that's extraordinary expenses. So that is school extracurricular. So you have to pay that on top of what you pay to maintain the child. And tuition's only going up these days. You basically pay until they're done, their first degree or diploma, whatever.
Mhm.
Or they turn 25,
Mhm.
depending on what province you're in. If you're in Quebec, anyone out there who's listening to this and is in Quebec or has a child support order from Quebec, your life. I'm praying for you. Go to start saving for a lawyer immediately because they don't stop. Child support payments do not stop no matter what age that kid is until you go back to court. I had clients who were in their 70s still paying for their 30-year-old children because they didn't have the money to go to Quebec to stop the child support. So
you have to go to court to have the payment stopped in Quebec? Oh, that's savage.
they're on a different family law act.
Mhm.
Family law or family support? No, family law act. They're on a different one. So it's like what we had before, like back in 2006 or 5 or something like that. So yeah, they run on a completely different legal system there. So I'm praying for you all.
For everybody from Quebec, you can thank me later.
All
Because
don't
we
have
need
children
to
and living recklessly. Remember, it
just
don't
say
stop.
you need to call her and let her help you because you'll be paying for that kid until either you die or they die. Actually,
Yeah,
because
you die.
time
I
it's no different.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people assume it's like a middle-age problem, but it really follows a lot of people into their retirement years. I've seen people, if you owe money, it could be anything. Depending on the province, I only know the specifics for Alberta. Well, not only, but I know the specifics for Alberta. But if you owe more than like $100 for 30 days and you are, say, on getting your old age security, your pension, like your Canada pension plan stuff, yeah, they take half every
Wait,
month
half of your pension payment every month as long as you owe over 100 for more than 30 days.
to cover what you owe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to cover what you owe. So, and then, yeah, and then now you're in the hands of uh, civil servants to pay attention to their accounting because some of their systems will continue to take that money. They may not release it because there's no money there's no money owing and there's no
Yeah.
reoccurring bills, but it can sit there for ages. Yeah. So
Go to court.
you owe cats out there, please sort your life out before you retire.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the 5 biggest mistakes or misconceptions? Because I'm going to give you the option for both because we covered a lot already
We
that
did.
you come across. in your line of work when it comes to this?
5 mistakes or misconceptions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we went over some of them already. Number 1 mistake would be equating your access to what you pay and when you pay. So your order might say that you have to pay X dollars, and your partner or ex-partner needs to allow you every other weekend and summers, alternating summers, regardless of whether your ex adheres to that guideline, does not affect how much you pay or how often you pay. That's the number 1 biggest mistake. Misconception that just because a father doesn't pay for their kids doesn't mean that he's a deadbeat. I think that's a really big one. I think we need to throw away the term deadbeat dad. For a lot of people. Like, they're out there. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there are people out there who just don't care or don't have the ability to care. That's not for me to judge here or there. But yeah, that is, I feel like instead of deadbeat, it's like beaten dead dad. Yeah. Yeah. So that's fine. Trademark that.
I might have to copyright that. That's actually really good.
Yeah, that's fine. It's decided. It's fine. But yeah, so that's number 2. Number 3. Let's go with another mistake. How about this is one from my people back in the office. One mistake is to treat your caseworker like your adversary. Don't. You can befriend this person, and it would be in your best interest to have a close relationship with your caseworker. How to do that is difficult, depends on where you are, but that's why you call me. And I can definitely help you build that relationship, because you're going to need that person. There's going to be a day where you have a late payment, you forget something, you need something. You're going to need that person to be on your side. And if they're not, they will ruin your life for fun. I've seen it. People celebrate when they ruin strangers' lives. So that's another one. A 4th, let's go back to a misconception. Let's see. Misconception. A misconception is that this will go away. It will not go away. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
It will never, ever go away unless for some miraculous reason you and your partner either are amicable to the point where they basically take pity on you or something of the sort. Yeah. Or honestly, yeah, that's about the only way you're going to get out of that. Yeah, there's no other way. Or it was a clerical issue, then okay, fine. But if all of your numbers check out, it's never going to go away, no matter where you go. It's Costa Rica. That's one of the few places we can't get to.
Gotcha.
That's my free tip for the day. If all else fails, go to Costa Rica.
Well, people like the population for Costa Rica is about to skyrocket now.
Yeah, the female to male ratio will be great.
I like that. It's hot there. That works.
It's out there. Okay, and then the last one.
Right?
Yeah, the last one is let's see. I want to make it a good one. Do not wait too long waiting too long to ask for help. It is possibly one of the worst mistakes you can make in this situation, because no matter how bad you think it is today, if you wait, it will be worse. And so if you need to reach out to, and it doesn't have to be a lawyer, you can reach out to the department that regulates your court order, if it's registered. But you need to speak to people. Like, you really need to speak to people. If you feel like you don't have the money to hire a lawyer, there are so many options for you out there. Lawyers are even doing something called collaborative law, where it's a little bit more holistic. So it's not just a lawyer going to court for you, but there's mediators, there's therapists, there are coaches, there's me. Okay. Reach out for help, because even though you feel like you may not have, say, the mental capacity, whether it's through like book smarts or just being able to cope with the stress of just life and then this on top of it, you need to reach out to people. There are so many programs out there that if you put your pride, your ego, and like any sort of shame you have aside, they will be able to help you. There are support groups out there, and like I said, there's people like me that actually will help. Yeah. So yeah, those are my top 5.
This has been amazingly informative, and
I'm
I
glad.
will say I honestly love what you do, because I feel like a lot of men, we get kind of bamboozled with this. And I'm just looking at it in the fact of relationship. Like, a relationship starts to dissolve, and it almost becomes like you kind of know where everything's going to go. You have an idea that, like, chances are child's going to stay with the mother. So, like, you don't really know how to prepare for something like this. And you don't really know what your options are. So a lot of them just kind of like, okay, I'll just wait to see what happens. And by that time, it's like way too late. And I know friends who have actually gone homeless because of this. And it's sad to see. They had very productive lives before. They were very successful people prior to it, but it's just the way the cookie crumbled in their end. So
Yeah.
my advice, and the same advice you were giving, don't put your pride aside sometimes. And you have to understand that you're not in a situation where you have a lot of control, but you can maximize the control you have in the situation. Seek the help, seek the advice. I'm hoping that this video actually helps people do that. And I advise everybody to reach out to this wonderful human being, because she is willing to go through the mud with you and help you through this, because she's seen it firsthand how it goes both ways. So if you want to give them your plug again, let them know where they can find the information.
All right. So my actual business, it's called Kingdom Mend. So that's where I help. That's where I help mostly gentlemen, or people who are connected to someone in the situation. They will reach out to me there. So you can find me on Instagram, Kingdom Mend. That's where I'm at. I will be having, well, now that I have encouragement, I will be posting like my own like tidbit advice really on my Advocating Aunty page. But if you need actual help, like, it's not just, oh, this is interesting, I want to hear more. But you need some help and quickly, reach out to me at Kingdom Mend on Instagram. You could just DM me and I will set up an appointment and we can chat.
Perfect. That is awesome. Again, I commend you for what you do. You're
Thank you.
lives. You are actually changing lives. And again, any of you guys going out there, even women, if you're going through the same thing, reach out to this. That'll change your life.
Yeah. But actually, just before I let you go, like, also for women as well, like, it is difficult. Like, you're raising children sometimes on your own. The person might not be in the capacity to reach out to someone like me. You can reach out to me as well. Obviously, there are other support for women and with children. There's tons of them. But if you're looking for ways to even like kind of pull the father back into the picture, and they've kind of run away because of the money and the pressure of that, there are ways for you to kind of like pull them back in without like hurting them, like more incentive ways. So if you're looking for strategies on that, I'm also your girl. Or your auntie.
Auntie of the people.
I'm the auntie of people, yeah. I'm rebranding Auntie. We got a pretty bad name. I don't know why, but yeah.
I've never known. Okay, no, that's a lie. I've known that before.
Yeah.
Normally, we're supposed to be good people. Normally. Oh, this great. I'm very happy we were able to connect and really try to like help people and kind of change the conception of all this because again, a lot of people have been suffering for this. So I do want to thank you for coming out and taking the time out of your day for this.
You're
Because I
most
know
welcome. Thank you. Yeah, no, honestly, my thanks is gonna have to be reciprocated because, you know, just the chance to be given a platform just to say anything about this taboo subject is a blessing to me as well.
guys be tuned. She will be back. We'll probably be talking about some other stuff, but
Yes.
I love having the energy is
Awesome.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right. So you have a great day and we will be in touch.
All right, perfect. Take care.
Good one. Protect your heart.
Oh.